Hey everyone. So this is my first time doing anything like this, but I was thinking about it for a long time and never finding the time to actually sit down. And I'm sure most parents and moms understand what that's like. But I'm trying to start doing videos about type 1 diabetes and about the things that we're going through with Haley. Everybody knows that or most people know that we're trying to raise money for JDRF, which is the research that goes into finding a cure for type 1 diabetes and really has helped shape how people manage diabetes. What are you doing, Haley?
I'm getting my shark thing.
Okay.
Can you open it for me?
Just peel off the plastic.
Trying to.
You say hi?
Hi.
Mommy's doing a video about your diabetes. You show where your pod is? Her pod is on her leg today. And we don't have an extra covering on that, so hopefully it will stay on. And Haley loves to swim, so that is one of the challenges we have. But part of the research that goes into looking at type 1 diabetes finds technology to help manage it day to day, and Haley is currently on the Omnipod pump, which has been awesome. We went from doing about 5 or 6 shots a day, including finger pricks for her blood sugar, to now she has an insulin pump, and we have this wonderful little, we call it PDM device, that we basically test her blood sugar still, and I apologize for my videoing skills. Hopefully they will improve over time. But this is her PDM. It has to go with her everywhere she goes. And we basically put in her blood sugar. And the best part is it does all the math for you. Yay, because math is not my strong point. So we've been having quite the week trying to manage her diabetes. And Haley's 5 years old. So, you know, she's full of sass, and she wants to be just like all the other kids, so that can come with its own challenges. She goes to daycare full time, and that also comes with its challenges. I work full time, and I've pretty much been responsible for training the teachers and the staff as much as I know, which, you know, isn't all that much because we were just diagnosed in February. And so they pretty much call me every day or text me every day, and they will ask questions about, you know, whether or not they should give her more insulin or less insulin, or if her numbers are okay. And as you can imagine, I'm also a social worker, and sometimes my days are super busy, and it's not an easy juggling process. And, you know, from February till I would say March or April, that was just a big learning curve. And then just when you think you get settled and you think you know what you're doing, we decided to go ahead and try the pump, which came with its own learning curve. And then, you know, just when you get comfortable with that, you know, she gets bigger, or the summer time comes and it's hot outside and she's doing different exercises, or she's going swimming. And maybe what's hard to talk to people about on a daily basis is that you never stop thinking about what your child's eating, what her sugar's doing. You're basically trying to act like a human pancreas all the time, every minute of the day. I'll be honest with you, I don't think I ever realized how hard the pancreas works. It's a tiny little organ, but it makes a big deal for anybody to grow and develop. And so our little device here really saves us from a lot of stuff. because it does, like I said, all the math and everything. But even with that, we have to do finger pricks and check her blood sugar. And so this week has been particularly exhausting, and I felt like it was time for me to kind of do more about sharing, because it's hard to want to talk about diabetes all the time. I feel bad talking about diabetes all the time to people who, it doesn't really affect them, and it's kind of like the same about anything. If you start talking about it a lot, people just kind of probably want to drown you out. But in trying to get research and really fundraise, because now it's something that could really shape Haley's life and her outcome when she's older, because it's one thing to have your mom managing your diabetes, but it's going to be another thing when she's 18 and when she's a teenager and she's trying to do this on her own. And it's not one of those things where you have a choice. If your choice is to not manage your diabetes, then you're going to get sick and you're going to die. And even when you do manage your diabetes as best you can, things can happen, and that's a really scary thing for us. And one of the things that happened the other day was, I got comfortable being pretty secure about how we were managing her diabetes. I knew we were struggling a little bit at school, that we were had a lot of highs at school, and I thought it was from the weather. I thought it was because it was hot outside, or she was running around, or maybe they weren't quite counting the carbs and putting them in correctly. And we were just trying to figure it out. And we worked with the endocrinologist to increase her basal dose, which is the other thing that the pump allows us to do. So instead of giving her two different kinds of insulin, one's a long-acting insulin that kind of enters your body steadily as the day, which if you know anything about pancreases, I didn't until recently. Your pancreas gives you a small dose of insulin all day long. It accounts for your sugar. It just knows. I don't know how, it just knows when to help your blood sugar. And then, so now you have to try and do that. And the other type of insulin, the short-acting insulin, is the one that when you eat a lot of carbs or you eat something that's sugary, will immediately start working to try to counteract the amount that you're eating. So this device allows her to get, like a normal pancreas, it gets her the basal dose, which is the drip all day long. And so when we're having a hard time managing her numbers, the doctor decided that perhaps she was growing or something was changing about her diabetes, and that she should have a higher basal dose. So we went ahead and did that, and that seemed to be doing okay. But her numbers were still not right at daycare during the day, and I'm trying my best to help them. When we're on the weekends, I seem to have an easier time, so it's really hard to understand if it's just something about the structure of their day versus when she's at home. And these are unfortunately the things that we have to battle with every day. And I'm thankful for the devices and the technology, because doing needles and traveling with needles and just going about normal day-to-day tasks of like running to the store, you have to think about whether or not you're bringing the insulin with you, or there have been times when we forgot to bring the insulin or the needles or something like that, and in the short term you're faced with her having a high blood sugar. And if parents knows what it's like to have a child who is a toddler and just tantrums and screams out of their mind, that's what could happen. She goes and her numbers skyrocket, and she turns into angry, very petulant child who is very difficult to manage. And she's 5 years old, so you're in a store and it feels a lot different. People look at you, and I don't really care what they think, but sometimes it's because my child's a diabetic and she can't really control some of this, and other times she's 5 and she's acting like a 5-year-old, and it's hard to know when those things are happening. And so the highs are annoying and they're hard and difficult as a parent, but it's the lows that worry you the most. So you'd rather not be necessarily having a lot of highs, but you definitely don't want to give her too much insulin, because if she goes too low, it's the worst. It's the scariest. And at night they tend to drop low, and I tend to send Haley to bed a little higher than her target blood sugar, because I'd rather not worry that she won't wake up at night. And I'd rather be able to sleep as a parent, because if you've had small kids and when they get a little bigger and you get some of your sleep back, it's hard to go backwards, and it's hard to be a functioning parent if you don't sleep enough. So, these are the things also that we battle. And we were having a pretty okay time of this with the home stuff, but then the daycare was struggling. So, they had changes in staff, and they were doing the best they could, or she moves to a different staff, and I have to accommodate. And I'm so grateful for them to take care of her and to be willing to learn all about this. This is not an easy thing. And for them to be able to communicate with me every day, I'm so grateful for them. And I know that they take it very seriously. And there are times when I've had to just remind them about how serious it is, but try not to scare them too much, because I obviously need them to take care of her so that I can go to work and so I can have insurance. But at the same time, it's scary for a parent to put their child's life in somebody else's hands on a day-to-day basis when they're normal, let alone when they've got special needs. And I know diabetes is just one type. There's certainly other kids out there who have things going on that I appreciate those parents' struggles. So this week was particularly challenging. One of Haley's staff left, and so a new person was taking over. And I have explained to them as best I can, and I've written everything down, and I have boxes and notebooks and stuff that I gave them, but sometimes it just takes a while for them to adjust. And on actually it was Thursday, so today I'm still exhausted from what happened on Thursday, but hopefully I'm gonna turn back the corner, because we were feeling very comfortable. And then I get a normal call from them, because I see them come up on my phone all the time, and I don't think anything of it. I think they just have a question about her numbers. And when I picked up the phone this time, and I'm at work and going about my day, I could sense the panic in their tone and in their voice. And for the first time, I actually was kind of panicked. And that's, if anybody knows me, I'm not a panicker. I'm not a crier. I'm not a panicker. It takes quite a bit. But all of a sudden, I wasn't there, and I couldn't necessarily figure out what the problem was from where I was. And I knew they needed me to get there, but I also needed to understand what the problem was. And when somebody calls you and says, her number is 415, or it was 368, and we gave her insulin and we can't get it to go back down, and I need you to just come get her. I'm processing. I'm trying to figure out, what does that mean? It's not coming down. Is she sick? Does she have a fever? How does she look to you? And they said she was tired and sleepy, which is not a good sign for a diabetic unless it's a normal thing, like it's time for bed. Not necessarily in the middle of the afternoon, although she is 5 and she still sometimes needs a nap, even though she doesn't want it. And so they said she doesn't look good. And now I'm trying to talk over the phone, almost like 911, well, what do you mean she doesn't look good? And what's next? I will come get her, that's not the problem. But what I need to know is, how bad is this? And should you be calling an ambulance for my daughter? Or if I go pick her up, should I be bringing her to the hospital? So, all of a sudden my adrenaline shoots through the roof. And this could happen to us all the time, and I think you get to a place where everything's comfortable, and so it's a bit of a shock to go back to where you were afraid. And that's just the reality of our new life with a diabetic, and I don't think it's going to get easier necessarily. But one of the things, and as it turns out, I should say, she was totally fine. They had just tested her after she ate lunch and didn't give her insulin enough time. It takes usually about 15 to 20 minutes for the insulin to start working. And I think they were just really anxious that her numbers had been high all morning. And I had talked to them about giving her insulin with her snack, and they forgot. And so her numbers were just steadily high all day. But I will say she had been high in the morning when she woke up, which is not normal for her. So I had thought to myself, that's not normal, but we'll keep an eye on it. And so when they said she was high twice, in my brain I thought maybe she's getting sick, or maybe something more is going on, instead of thinking, well, when did they test her? And when was that in relation to the food she'd eaten and the medicine that she got? And it turns out, I hung up with them, called the endocrinologist, and the nurse, and I were able to talk it through. And I really, it took me a few minutes for my panic and my adrenaline to reduce enough that I could really process that I thought she was fine. And I would still go and I would see her for myself, because we all know that once you get that call, like, you need to be there and you need to see them for yourself. And I also could feel the stress of the daycare, and didn't want them to feel that stressed out. And yes, we pay them and all that, but it's still hard on them. And it's hard on me, and I'm older, and some of them are even younger, and they really take this seriously. So, part of this was just also a good thing, because we were able to talk through some of the things that we were doing and that they were doing. And we were able to clarify with them, like, the highs are not what I panic about. Unless, they really think she's sick, or she looks like she's going to pass out or faint or something like that. Or if they've been happening for days and days and days. And then that's a totally different story. But the highs only are really bad if they keep happening over a long period of time, not necessarily for a day, although that's not ideally how you want to manage your diabetes. But it's really hard with kids. It's hard to get them to brush their teeth, let alone figure out how to work their insulin. So then, we were able to sort through that. But, I took the kids home, and I was able to relax at some point, and it still was exhausting to kind of feel that shift happen. And then, but the good news is we also learned from the endocrinologist that we had been not doing all of the right things either, that because we had moved to the pump, we needed to do her carb corrections for her snack differently. And we just were like, oh my God, how did I miss that? I was inundated with information about the pump that, they could have told me, and I just missed it. And she said, no, sometimes people just don't tell you enough, or, it's a normal thing. So we're going to fix that. And now we also have our new shipment of her new technology, which will be her glucose monitor. And this is the FedEx box. And this is Haley, who's probably overtired from swimming in the pool. And she just had dinner. And this is her charming personality. Do you want to help me open this box? Do you want to open the box with me and check out your you're cold? Okay, then go get changed. Okay. Well, here, you hold this.
No, I'm cold.
All right.
Fine.
Well, you gotta point that here. Okay. This is Haley's Dexcom. She has the Dexcom G6, which the great part about this is that instead of them calling me all the time, I can actually share it on an app. And so when she's at school and it's on Wi-Fi, I will see all of her numbers. Nobody has to call me. Nobody has to, alert me, because the actual device will alert me if she goes too low.
Is that a towel?
That's our beach towel. So this is the Dexcom G6. This is the newest glucose monitor.
Mama, can I use this?
And this is amazing.
Mama, can I use this right now? It's warmer.
We're going to use that for the beach on Monday.
But I'm cold.
Use that towel right there.
No.
Please.
No. But this one's comfier.
Okay.
Feel it.
I just need 5 more minutes. Okay. 5 more minutes.
Mama.
So please go away for a minute and let me finish. So this is all new to me, and this also gets attached to her. So she has a pump that's on her leg, and then this will get attached to her belly or something. But the good news is it stays on for 10 whole days, and then we don't have to, well, it's not that we don't have to, but we won't have to prick her finger and check her blood sugar, only if we really feel like we have to check it for accuracy, because the best way to get the blood glucose is actually through the blood versus through the tissue. And so this device will be great, but sometimes they say it takes actually a few days before it gets really, really accurate. So the longer it's on you, the better, and it'll get more accurate, and then it will track all of her numbers, share it with my phone, share it with her pump device.
Go all the way back upstairs to get my pajamas.
Okay, I'll go get them in a minute, all right? So I plan on doing more videos. We're going to be going to Disney World in a few weeks, and we're now going to Disney World as a diabetic family. So I've had to do a lot of phone calls and extra stuff to get us ready for that, and we have to bring insulated backpacks and ice packs and stuff like that will work, and we're going on a cruise boat, so we had to call them and make sure they have all that they need for her, and including nursing and doctor staff and stuff. So it's just things that come up. So hopefully I haven't bored everybody. I'm gonna try to keep these a little shorter, but actually it's nice to just be able to tell everybody what we're going through, and people can watch it if they want to, and if they don't, that's fine too. I know I have a lot of support, and whenever something happens with Haley, I know that everybody else feels it too, and I'm not always with everybody, so some people, this might be news, but this is kind of our day-to-day, and we're doing the best that we can, and we have good days, we have bad days, and we're managing. But if anybody can share our fundraiser or wants to walk with us, this is such an important thing for Haley and for her future, and we appreciate any donations or any extra team members helping us to find a cure for type 1. Thank you. Have a great night.